You're up.
Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we are going over a new discovery to the ancestor of the plated stegosaurs and the armored ankylosaurs, as well as taking a bit of a look into different species of dinosaurs throughout the Mesozoic. And we are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. These seem to be um, some pretty decent models of some early Theropharean dinosaur species. So probably existing way back into the early Jurassic over 195 million years ago. So from Sci News, new armored dinosaur unearthed in Argentina. Paleontologists in Argentina have unveiled a new genus and species of armored thyropharan dinosaur from the Cretaceous period. Whoa, okay, so I was off. So it's one of these guys. I was really assuming because many of the more primitive looking Therapharians, like, and that have a very similar, physical structure to these individuals, usually are talked about from the early Jurassic, not the Cretaceous. I mean, they do occur, but it's, very rare. Let's see who we have here. So Thyrophera is a group of small to large armored ornithischian dinosaurs that lived from the early Jurassic until the end of the Cretaceous period. Well, there were different extinctions that occurred in this group throughout the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, with the Stegosaurs dying out before the Nodosaurs and Ankylosaurs, due to the Nodosaurs and Ankylosaurs dying out at the exact same time. In fact, let's pull up a specific. Hold on a second. And before we do that, so these dinosaurs are characterized by the presence of body armor lined up in longitudinal rows along the body. I haven't heard of it described in that way. That's interesting.
Longitudinal rows?
Yeah, it's interesting. Most thyropharans were herbivorous and had relatively small brains for their body size. Yeah, it's possible
That's
certain
just mean.
oh, right. Well, if you're talking about the smaller species, they had relatively large brains. But, the larger species such as the stegosaurs and ankylosaurs, yes, they were quite small, but smart enough to, have an over, what, 130 to 140 million year reign, so pretty decent. Okay, now, let's look up a species of stegosaur, the Locatosaurus. So, Locataurus. Did a stegosaur pop up?
Mm, is it supposed to be Loric?
Oh, Loricatosaurus. Yes, yes, that's it. This is a species of stegosaur from the Middle Jurassic period. It is closely related to the more famous Stegosaurus, as well as the different species of Stegosaurus within the genus, as well as Hesperosaurus, which came after Loricatosaurus but before Stegosaurus. However, the Loricatosaurus existed over in different parts of Utah around 164 million years ago.
Is that any good?
Um, Technically, no. It should have much longer plates compared to its body size, and also I'd say skinnier and overall width. And when it comes to the more plate-like osteoderms, this is a bit better when it comes to the plate-like structures, but still lacking many. Also, Loricatosaurus did not have a specific, almost thagomizer or tail spike on its shoulder blade. This is not one of the species of stegosaur with this type of characteristic. However, I think that's an older reconstruction,
Well, this is definitely an older one.
unless it's supposed to be um, representing another species, which likely it was. Now, this looks much better. This is one of those species of stegosaurs that had almost like several thagomizers, which are what the tail spikes are referred to on many species of stegosaurs. But in this case, at least with this species, they cover the entire tail. and in some cases, even up into the hip region or just above the thighs. Now, in this case, seems to be where it seemed to end at the very end of the tail. But also, this is one of the species of stegosaurs with a relatively long neck compared to its body size, despite not being related to certain species, which would have slightly longer necks compared to their body size, like Marigaya, which inhabited Portugal during the late Jurassic around 153 million years ago. This animal was somewhere around 25 to 30 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere between 8 to 9 meters, probably weighed around 4 tons, and was likely having to fend off different species of allosaur in the region inhabited in different parts of North America, possibly even Europe as well. Now, one thing to mention about different species of stegosaurs, and this pretty much goes for every single species, is that the stegosaurus had very small feet compared to their body sizes. So, this usually means with different animals that they're not going to be hanging around any swampy type of ecosystems or even marshes for the most part.
So unlike a ceratopsian.
Depending on the species, but many species of ceratopsians had very wide feet compared to their body size. So, the group of dinosaurs that consisted of animals such as Diabloceratops as well as Triceratops. Even though there were species of ceratopsians smaller than um, a sheep, and and I'm referring to individuals weighing around 40 pounds or a little over 15 kilograms. So, this reconstruction, yeah, it doesn't seem bad. Plates might have portrayed an array of color, but that's a really big guess considering we haven't found any color on preserved plates. Okay, let's head back to the article. So, Thyrophora is a clade of ornithischian dinosaurs characterized by the presence of dermal bone armor on their backs, said lead author Dr. Facundo Reguetai, a paleontologist in the Federación de Historia Natural Felix de Azara at Universidad Maimonides and CONICT and his colleagues. I'm guessing that might have been French. Anyway, um, where was I getting at? Oh, so this is not to confuse thyrophorans because it's mentioning that it's a group of the ornithischian dinosaur lineage, which is true. But some people might stick every single member of the ornithischian lineage with, like in this case with Thyrophora, the ceratopsians, and also the ornithopods, such as the iguanodontids, duck-billed dinosaurs, such as the hadrosaurs, with or being very closely related to thyrophorans. I believe the term for the ceratopsians and the pachycephalosaurs is the megacephalans. They are quite distantly related, despite being a part of Ornithischiae. Although most thyrophorans are grouped with Eurypoda and Chylosauridae, the armored dinosaurs, and Stegosauridae, the plated dinosaurs, their more basal relatives show unresolved phylogenetic placements. Okay, he's just this is just stating the overall group as a whole. I'm going to read slight more. The most representative of these forms are Scutellosaurus, Emausaurus, and Scelidosaurus from the lower Jurassic of the United States, Germany, and England, respectively. Okay, so many people, or those slightly familiar with these three animals, might stick them into the same species. So let's look up Scutellosaurus, considering this is a very small and early species of Therophorian. So Scutellosaurus. So this animal existed over in Arizona around 197 million years ago, towards the first 4 million years of the Jurassic. But it wasn't much more than 3 to 4 feet in length. They're pushing around 1.3 meters and might have weighed 40 to 45 pounds or somewhere around 20 kilograms. And this animal was possibly an omnivore, maybe feeding on different species of insects, maybe even going after small lizards or amphibians in the region. Lizards are reptiles. But it is likely a large portion of its diet were different species of ferns in the region,
Okay, this one's funny looking.
maybe lower lying plants beneath the ferns. Let's see. Oh, yes. This is an okay model. Um,
You're being nice.
well, I mean, when it comes to the overall armor, it's really not bad. Scutellosaurus, it used to be portrayed for the most part as not bipedal, quadrupedal, so walking on all fours. But more recent reconstructions show the animal as being bipedal. Also, looking at just more further analyses to the overall physiology and the morphology of this animal,
How is this one?
it's much better. This animal probably couldn't put much weight onto its forelimbs, much like with what we see in the different species of prosauropod during the late Triassic as well. Well, you could say the mid to late Triassic and the early Jurassic in general, considering Scutellosaurus did coexist with different species of prosauropod back in the early Jurassic. In this case, it seems to be um, just chatting with some of the earliest species of true mammals.
And here's what happens when you let AI make one.
Yep. Got a Dilophosaurus, which isn't terrible. There's something off about him, though. I think his arms are far too small compared to his body size.
Dude, he looks just a lizard.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of trying to represent a Jurassic species of lizard. But
No, it
uh,
says whatever it's called.
by chance, say Pelycosaur?
No, it says skull.
Oh, Scutellosaurus?
Yeah.
Yeah, that just looks like some sort of Mesozoic lizard. Pelycosaurs, though, I believe existed much further back into the Permian, but it's a completely different group of reptile. Not a member of the Archosauromorph lineage, which would um, become different lineages of dinosaurs, as well as birds, crocodilomorphs, and even certain types of marine reptiles. Not all of them, just a small portion, as well as the flying pterosaurs. So Scutellosaurus, and then you have was it Scelidosaurus? I guess we could look into him real quick. Uh, Scelidosaurus, Scelidosaurus. So this specific animal inhabited England and possibly France during the early Jurassic as well. All of these three animals or these three species did inhabit the Jurassic at around the same time. So this was pushing around 196 million years ago. However, Scelidosaurus was much larger, and it was likely that it was quadrupedal, unlike its smaller relative, this Scutellosaurus. So this is also an early member of the Thyrotherian lineage of dinosaurs. So technically, these would not belong to the Stegosaur lineage or the Ankylosaur lineage. I think some might branch it with the Ankylosaurs a bit more due to the armor looking more of like something such as a Nodosaur.
Okay, here's an AI one, and something's weird.
But these are likely the ancestors to them. Yep. He has a he has a massive infection on the left, and the other is still impressed. Um, it's probably trying to represent some species of Nodosaur later into the late Jurassic or the early Cretaceous. I think it's a certain species, possibly from Australia, but it's not hitting me at the moment. I don't think it's Minmi,
Okay, here's another AI one.
'cause Minmi is an actual genus.
Is this a devil?
Yeah, that's. It's probably trying to represent some Nodosaur, but it's not hitting me what specifically. That could be an early species of Tyrannosaur in the background. But it has very large arms compared to his body size, which there were certain somewhat smaller species. We can still be talking about a 20 to 25-foot long individual or a 6 to 7.8-meter long animal. Also, probably weighing a little more than a ton. Okay, let's head back to. Oh, what was that other one? Euphrosaurus? Emausaurus. Emausaurus is from Germany around the same time, about 196 million years ago.
Where is it?
Right here. Oh, did I mention the size of Scelidosaurus? Okay. The larger species. Oh, did you ever bring up an actual Scelidosaurus picture? I don't think you did. Well, there's a skeleton, but not the painting. Scelidosaurus in general could reach somewhere around 13 feet or 4 meters, and probably weighing somewhere around 3 to 400 pounds, or a little over 150 kilograms. So a massive early theropharan compared to
Is
Scutellosaurus.
that any better?
Is this a Scelidosaurus or the other species? The Emau. Oh, um, yeah, that looks pretty decent. It was heavily armored. You would assume at first glance that this was an early species of nodosaur, and it's not. It's just an early thyropharian.
Is that better?
Yeah, I thought the last one was better. He's got an odd horn structure behind his head. Um, I don't mind the overall armor. I think it's okay. Also, their weight tend to be much, or at least their core, their underbelly was much higher off the ground compared to different species of ankylosaurs, later ankylosaurs to an extent. Well, I'm saying that as ankylosaurs hadn't evolved yet, but yeah, this isn't a bad picture. I like also the array of color. I think the other one was just from Jurassic World Evolution, so it's just a um, dull sort of accumulage of pigment. But this looks pretty good.
Good.
Also, when it comes to that's what's interesting about, I think, the early Thyropharans is they had quite nimble or gracile sort of leg structures, at least when it came to the hind legs to an extent. Whereas the forearms, they were almost quite, I wouldn't say pudgy, but just dense or wide,
Okay, here's the
especially like in this
Allosaurus.
individual. I did notice though he had those distinct horns in the back. So maybe it was one of those somewhat almost horned Thyropharans. Let's see. This is supposed to be. Oh, wait, this is Emausaurus. Gosh, who is hunting him? Considering this is back in the very early Jurassic, I'm guessing it could be some sort of a Metracanthosaur. That's very possible, which is a member of the Megalosaur lineage of dinosaurs. And this would be far before Megalosaurus would have evolved over in England. He won't pop up for another 25, 26 million years. So not evolving until somewhere around 170 million years ago. But this is a very good reconstruction and a battle depiction. Except this Metracanthosaur has quite skinny legs. I'm very concerned. You can literally see the bone, unless that's what it's supposed to be depicting.
Okay, this looks completely different than the last one.
This looks more of like an earlier reconstruction of an Emausaurus. Still not bad. Now, maybe this could be the case for females, possibly. Just having less armor and more of an even more gracile sort of a look. Though they did give this one, larger, like, more, just much wider thighs and calves, and even when it comes to ankles. I think the toes might be a bit short, though.
Okay, here's an AI.
Yeah, it really likes the Nodosaurs in general. But the problem is what I've noticed, I didn't mention earlier with the other AI, in quote, Nodosaurs, is that they're giving them a very ankylosaur sort of skull structure. And I think in some cases a bit too wide of a body, which is also very it's a very ankylosaur sort of a look. Also, they're giving this animal 4 claws, and there should only be 3. The other 2 would be blunt or just not being clawed in general. Then there's that sickle claw on the back hind leg.
Hmm?
That shouldn't be there. There's that extra little the dew claw.
Oh, here?
Yeah. And then having a pale tail. That's almost non-existent with most species of nodosaurs and morphs in general. So yeah, this animal's lost. It almost has like a bit of an early ceratopsian look with that distinct horn on the side of its skull. And this guy's a mutt.
That's what we happens when we let AI make things.
Yep. Let's see. The most represent. Oh, I already said that. Um, the newly identified dinosaur species roamed Earth during the late Cretaceous epoch. Whoa, okay, so we're talking about, geesh, this one of these thyropherans from the late Cretaceous. That is not very usual. Between 97 and 94 million years ago. I would say the smaller ceratopsians at this point are much more common than thyropherans in this case. Well, smaller, primitive looking thyropherans. The ancient creature is the first definitive thyropheran species from the Argentinian Patagonia, named Huckpill. Kind of reminds me of Kakapow. Kanyukura. It had short arms, measured about 1.5 meters or 4.9 feet long, and weighed between 4 and 7 kilograms, or somewhere between um, 10 and 10 to 20 pounds. So it shared many features with basal, ornithischian, and thyropheran dinosaurs, even with ankylosaurids, but also had several novelties. Okay, let's look up another species of dinosaur, but this is a bit of a ways from the Theropharians as a whole. Ornithischians too. Cedarosaurus, or maybe Cedarosaurus. Cedarosaurus. This is a lineage or a member of the Saurischian lineage of dinosaurs, and more specifically, the long-necked sauropods.
Okay, I'm starting with an AI one this time.
Yep, nope. It almost looks like somebody took an iguanodonted, um, ruined his thumb claw. His thumb claw is now just simply aligned with the rest of his toes. His toes also should, I guess you could say they're in somewhat a hoof sort of stance. His feet are too stumpy, almost like a brachiosaur to an extent. And he's got like an enlarged Machikosaurus, which is a small theropod dinosaur, member of the Noasauran lineage of carnivorous theropods. Skull. That's better. So this is from the 2013 documentary Dinosaur Revolution. Still has issues, but is a bit closer to Cedarosaurus, which is from Utah, found in the Cedar Mountain Formation, and dates to somewhere around 135 million years ago.
Okay, someone's
Now,
having a bad day.
yeah, I think he made it. But it is likely that Utah raptor in the region, which is found in the Cedar Mountain Formation as well, and coexisted with different species of sauropod dinosaurs, as well as different species of ornithopods and nodosaurs. A couple of other species of dromaeosaur in the region too. One I believe didn't even have that specific sickle claw, but they were certainly capable of taking on at least smaller individuals. But Cedarosaurus wasn't exactly a large species of sauropod. In fact, the individual that they were attacking in this instance would probably be the size, maybe slightly smaller, but of a full grown individual. It only reached somewhere around 49 feet in length, or pushing a little over 15 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around um, 11 to 14 tons. So it wasn't a large sauropod.
What happened here? Or are they just all
Um,
sleeping?
yeah, I think this is from that specific animator. It's not hitting me. It might be representing Cedarosaurus. Could be Astrodon. That sauropod's also from this region as well. Astrodon was a bit larger. I think in some cases, some might confuse it with Plesiosaurus, and they are two completely different dinosaurs. Plesiosaurus is also from um, Texas, and I believe North Carolina as well. Plesiosaurus also existed much later into the Cretaceous, around 110 million years ago. And yes, I am talking about another species of sauropod. Cedarosaurus, however, also you can tell a bit by the look of the animal, but it is a member of the Brachiosauridae lineage of sauropods. This is not a member of the Titanosauridae lineage of dinosaurs. It is not a diplodocid. It is a brachiosaur. Yeah, I'm guessing this is probably an animator. But this animal was likely feeding on different species of conifers during the early Cretaceous period. And yes, they probably had to endure different wet and dry seasons as well.
Why does it look like they're trying to recreate the Loch Ness Monster here?
That's occurred with different sauropod depictions, but likely they did not come into contact with any species of plesiosaurs because there wouldn't really be much of a reason for sauropods to hang out on the coast, but it can occur. I mean, we do have evidence for sauropods, at least hanging out somewhat along the coast due to certain individuals found amongst marine deposits, which would have indicated a shallow coast or shallow sea.
Were they drowned?
They could have maybe just one of them simply died and then simply washed out to sea. Well, died as in like a carnivore attack, disease. Okay, let's head back to the article.
Wait a minute, I have one more. It looks like it looks like the same guys as this.
Probably is. Hmm. Seems like a bit of an older model though, but it could just simply be the shot. I thought one of them was like a
When they took the picture of the dinosaurs?
Yeah. Now, I mean, this could have occurred in different flooding or monsoon seasons during the Mesozoic era. I mean, almost having like an Okavango Delta sort of a accumulation to it. Just the Okavango Delta is over in northern Botswana and southern sub-Saharan Africa. So that's where you see that massive delta flood during the wet season. So between like October and April, and you have, like, different elephant herds, hippos, basically in this manner. More of the elephants, but, what was it? I was comparing it with something else. So, the neck armor of this dinosaur is unique, and it protected that delicate area from predator attacks. I'm guessing it's just probably referring to, much of the rib cage, the tail, the neck of the animal, but the underbelly would still be exposed, but I think it just says neck armor. Said co-author Dr. Sebastian Apistagua. Its arms were tiny, something that didn't occur in the rest of the thyrophorans, the vast majority of which were quadrupeds. There were certain species. Well, I mean, technically, the stegosaurs and kylosaurs are all thyrophorans. They just belong to specific groups. This animal, considering it's in the late Cretaceous, seems to be some missing link. Um, let's take a look at what we've discovered. Well, that's really good to see. We have some of the skull and bits of the neck armor, also a specific, basically, what, horn like osteoderm. And I guess you could call it a neck horn. The complete shoulder blade, parts of the forearm in general. Gosh, whoa. This is almost like Tyrannosaur small when it comes to the arm size. I wouldn't say a belly sore, but it's definitely approaching that. Certain rib, parts of the pelvis, parts of the shin bone, and even a couple of tail vertebrae. It's really good to see. Little bits of the back armor as well. The partial skeleton of Hakapel canucura, including skull bones, partial teeth, and fragments, were recovered from the Candeleros Formation in Rio Negro Province, North Patagonia. Its proportions indicate that the species was likely bipedal, as in Scutellosaurus. Yeah, no kidding. He would crush his arms if he decided to put any weight on them. They were probably also quite limited in their overall locomotion. Could probably now maybe I'm wrong. You have it with the Abelisaurs where they're quite flexible with their small arms, so they couldn't really support any weight, but they certainly I mean maybe they were quite flexible. Okay, now let's bring up some other predators. Lythronax. This is a species of earlier tyrannosaur. Lythron. Oh, AX. Okay. So this animal existed over in Utah somewhere around 81 million years ago. So this animal existed shortly before the larger tyrannosaurs would evolve over in North America,
This is
but it,
coming off a Sci News article.
um yeah, it was discovered back in 2013. So um Lythronax was somewhere around 25 feet in length or pushing just under 8 meters, probably weighed a little over a ton.
Somebody feathered him.
Wonder what species of hadrosaur he's feeding on. This is before, well, this is towards the very beginning of the hadrosaur's reign. You had different species of iguanodontid beforehand, but not necessarily many species of hadrosaur, considering they had only been around at this point for about 2 million years. The tyrannosaurs, however, had already been evolving since the late Jurassic.
Okay, what's with this guy's head?
They just decided to give him a very stylish look towards the side. As well as the feathers. It's very likely, especially with this smaller species of tyrannosaur, that it's scored feathers, especially along the tops of its body. They did give this animal very wide thighs, which is not exactly surprising with different species of tyrannosaur, but the smaller ones, especially the different species that had more or just simply longer legs.
He's got a cartoon body.
Yeah, there's something off. Like, I don't mind the skull structure, good horn-like structures on top of the eyes as well. Um, some some bloated sort of characteristics on the top over here.
Everything about him is weird.
Um,
He's got a giant head, a little body, huge legs.
well, Lythronax did have a bit of a less robust skull structure compared to certain tyrannosaurs. There were larger species already existing during the early Cretaceous in different parts of Asia. Considering that's where a majority of the Tyrannosaurus reign was over in Asia, slight bit in Europe, not in Africa, Australia, Antarctica, or South America. But it wouldn't be until much later into the Cretaceous period that they start moving into North America. But still a big mystery as to when they decided to head over. Interesting. They made it where, or at least the artist kind of chipped off one of his teeth, which I mean can be somewhat realistic. Yeah, but they would continuously regrow their teeth. Though he seems to be have a bit of a loose lip, almost like with what you see in like lions, wolves,
He's also feathered.
bears to an extent. Oh yeah, I think yeah, he is
Those are
interesting.
feathers.
And he also, I guess, extended them. Wow, this far into the skull. That's interesting. Yeah, he's a bit scarred. Everything looks pretty good.
Oh,
Let's see, Lythronax. This animal did coexist with different species of dinosaur, well, different species of earlier ceratopsians back in the earlier late Cretaceous, well, at least the earlier Campanian stage. Gosh, what hadrosaur is that in the background? It's some earlier relative of Edmontosaurus. I'm not sure. I do like the overall swamp setting, considering back in. Wait a second, was it? I don't think it was Utah. I think it might have been Montana. No, I'm confusing with the raptor. Because I was thinking of Archaeoraptor, which existed over Montana around 68 million years ago, but this was far after Lythronax. In fact, let's look him up real quick. So Charaptor. It is slightly larger than Velociraptor.
here's another AI one for you. Nope, let me shrink him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not bad, but um, there's something off with his toe. Unless it's supposed to be a stick or the rock he's standing on. I
Is this
don't
a,
know. That looks like a toe. I can add an extra toe beyond the sickle claw. It's a bit better. Are there any drawings? I think he's a bit too small. I mean, Archaeoraptor wasn't a very large species of dromaeosaur. Certain velociraptor species is a bit larger. Then I'm not sure about Mongoliensis. Velociraptor mongoliensis probably bigger. So Archaeoraptor was maybe somewhere around 5 to 6 feet in length, or pushing 1.8 meters, and probably didn't weigh much more than 20 to 30 pounds, or shifting between 8 to 12 kilograms. Very likely covered in an array of feathers. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. And they gave him lips too. A bit of a broad sort of a skull on this one, however, but I mean, I think it looks pretty good. He's scarred too. So Archaeoraptor did coexist with different species of more renowned dinosaurs such as Triceratops and T Rex. So this animal has been found in the Hell Creek Formation. This is Velociraptor and Protoceratops. And what is interesting is that they gave this specific species, or this specific Velociraptor individual, like oviraptorid sort of feather accumulation. At least certain species of oviraptor have been reconstructed with that type of feather look. Most velociraptor, or many velociraptor depictions, tend to put a lot more plumage onto the animal. More similar to what you see on its arms. These Protoceratops, certain depictions of Protoceratops do show them with feathers like along their tail, but in this case, they're just bare. Also, I would say that Protoceratops, I mean, the picture is still good, but they would be very aggressive towards Velociraptor and try to trample it. But it is likely that since we have evidence of Velociraptor hunting Protoceratops,
Hold on.
Protoceratops is somewhere around 300 pounds, or a little over 130 kilograms. But besides that, it was just feeding on different species of ferns, flowers, and seeds in the area that inhabited over in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia around 71 million years ago, slightly before Archaeoraptor. So its proportions indicate that the species was likely bipedal, as in Scutellosaurus, in Huckapil canurakura. The relative dimensions of the forelimb, hindlimb, and cranial a great bear a greater resemblance to those of the bipedal theropods, basal ornithischians, and heterodontosaurids from theropherans. Yeah, I mean that is the fascinating thing about this early late Cretaceous thyropherian is that that's what I think also many people think of when, or at least are somewhat familiar with these animals, are the heterodontosaurs, which are an earlier group of ornithopods, as well as the earlier ornithischians, such as the Scutellosaurus, Scelidosaurus, and certain earlier relatives of the Pachycephalosaurids, which also would split off into the ceratopsians as well. But technically, the Pachycephalosaurs came or evolved much later into the Cretaceous. More complete material is needed to make accurate quantitative comparisons with other taxa and clarify its stance. Hecapil canurakura also shows that early thyropherans had a much broader geographic distribution than previously thought. Well, it seems to be that way. They're not really known from South America, so this is quite rare. This new species represents a previously unknown lineage of thyrophoran dinosaurs in South America. So thyrophorans originated about 200 million years ago and rapidly evolved into various species distributed throughout the world. Yeah, that's pretty much correct. I'd say nearly every continent, including Antarctica. Considering there seems to be some specific species of nodosaur that was discovered in Antarctica from the late Cretaceous period. I believe somewhere around 70 to 75 million years ago. Now, oh, so let's look up a distant relative of these animals, a Cosmoceratops. Kosmoceratops. So this is a species of ceratopsian, and more specifically, a species of chasmosaurine from the late Cretaceous of Montana. and Alberta around, oh, 75 million years ago. So this was during the late Campanian stage of the Cretaceous. And this animal was related to other ceratopsians such as Triceratops, Pentaceratops, Chasmosaurus, and likely did coexist with not Triceratops, but the other species, as well as different members of the Centrosaur lineage of ceratopsians such as Pachyrhinosaurus, or at least the species that inhabited this southern range of Canada as well as Montana. This is a pretty good depiction of a Cosmoceratops. Yeah, it has a very distinct horn assemblage along the front or the top end of its frill and even along the sides as well. This is not very common in different species of chasmosaurs. I think many people are more familiar with that sort of basal type of triceratops accumulation of small, wide, triangularish horns, whereas it's very different for Cosmoceratops. Oh, he's even portrayed with feathers. It's very possible with different species of ceratopsians, they might have had small accumulations of feathers. I'd say one of the only types of herbivorous dinosaurs, not including the sauropods, that are not showing or not portrayed with feathers are the stegosaurs, which is interesting. So let's see. Oh, ankylosaurs as well. Nodosaurs. They even gave him very bloated side chambers along the front of his skull. I think that looks pretty good. His feet also, I mean, the animal in general, this individual looks very evenly matched or proportioned. Cosmoceratops is one of the species of ceratopsians that have side-facing horns, which is odd. Why did certain species of ceratopsians evolve these types of characteristics? And not only that, they weren't necessarily straightly pointed like certain other species, such as Styracosaurus. But Styracosaurus really just has a somewhat forward-facing, more of like the horn just positioned towards the front of its snout, and it points somewhat at a curved angle, but mostly straight up into the air. But like certain other chasmosaurs, Cosmoceratops for some reason just has the smaller front horn or the nasal horn a bit further back onto the skull, not even directly onto the snout like many species of Chasmosaur, but still pointing somewhat straight up. And the other two, I guess you could say the eye socket horns, are faced towards the side, slightly curved. It's a big question to why. Same thing as to why or the odd accumulation at the top of its frill. It can still fend off different species of predators, especially the Tyrannosaurus, certain dromaeosaurs in the region, other ones of its kind. It could probably even attack different species of ankylosaurs that it coexisted with in the Canadian and Montana ecosystems. But it's just very strange. I think it looks very good though.
Okay, here's an AI version.
Yeah, this one's got issues. Now, what is interesting is I did add that type of a specific name for that sack, but that type of a bird-like characteristic,
But behind
which
him is not a is a another ceratopsian.
yeah, that seems to be either the same species. No, it's got a almost a somewhat Pentaceratops type of look and mixed with a Torosaurus, but it's probably trying to represent this. And yeah, it's a completely different look. But even then, the accumulation of the horns are off. Like same thing for even the eye socket horns. They should be faced towards the side. This is almost like somebody took a Torosaurus and stuck on some odd characteristics. I will say though, at least the um, I don't know. I don't like giving a lot of credit to this. Is there anybody else? I would say with the other drawings, the front limbs were much shorter compared to the hind limbs, which is also a major Chasmosauran type of a trait, but it's seen in different members of the Centrosaur lineage of dinosaurs as well. Even animals like Ionosaurus, which is a Centrosaur, not a Chasmosaur, had that type of a physiological characteristic. Oh, wow. Yeah, these look good. Interesting. They gave it a much more squarish sort of a depiction. Is this supposed to be? Yeah, it's drawing. Yeah, but much shorter forelimbs compared to the hind limbs.
No, this has to be
Yeah, it's a
this.
drawing. It's a signature.
Oh,
Now maybe it's somebody's model,
yeah, I think that's what it is.
but yeah, it looks pretty good. Now, what is interesting is that they also added like bits of vegetation onto the horns of another individual. I think that looks pretty good, just to show he's been rummaging through ferns or maybe a very brushy area. What's another thing? I think in many instances, ceratopsians in general have been portrayed as roaming through different or very open landscapes, but it's likely that they were also rummaging through different dense forests during the late Cretaceous period as well, throughout much of their range. Even certain areas such as Mongolia and northern China, different parts of the Middle East, like Uzbekistan, they were likely roaming through different conifer forests back in the Cretaceous too. I ever mentioned the size of this animal? I don't think I did. So, Cosmoceratops was about a medium-sized species of ceratopsian, probably reaching around 26 feet in length or 8 meters and weighing somewhere between 1 to 2 tons. So, likely just feeding on different species of flowers and, and ferns, maybe even ginkgos in the areas that inhabited over in southern Canada during the late Cretaceous. Likely coexisted with over 12 other different species of ceratopsians. Let's see what we had left over in the article. So, however, of these early thyrophorans, the lineage represented by Hakapil Kaniukura was the only one that lasted until at least 100 million years ago. Well, it was stating, I think, at the beginning, this was around 98 million years old. Um, yeah. Okay, here we go. Somewhere between 94 and 97 million years ago. That's just astonishing. So, right at that point where many other lineages of dinosaurs, like different species of sauropods, different species of different members of the Allosauridae lineage of dinosaurs, even the megalosaurs were going extinct. We're at the 95 million year mark. So that is interesting. And all of a sudden, this little individual evolved, but you still had a wide range of different species of nodosaurs. Oh, I left those guys out. Oh boy. Okay, let's see if this works. Acanthocephalus. So Acantecephalus. Did Nodosaur or an Ankylosaur pop up?
But I may have spelled it wrong. Do it again.
Acanthocephalus. So AK
Hold on. I'll just redo it.
okay, Acanthacephalus.
Mm,
Could be him, but this might be another species of Ankylosaur.
an- oh, yeah, it is. It's an an- anky- Anchiencephalus. Anchiencephalus?
Acanthocephalus, maybe. Did I say
You
Acanthocephalus?
didn't spell that. You spelled Akantha.
Okay, so so it's just Acanthocephalus. Okay, so I added those letters to the genus. Okay, anyway. This will this animal inhabited, I believe, Utah, somewhere around 100 and not 120 million years ago. I believe somewhere between 75 to 80 million years ago during the Cretaceous period.
Yeah, but you're telling me I spelled it wrong, right?
Um, well, at least it seemed like I added in those extra letters.
Which ones?
The Canocephalus,
Which extra letters did you add in?
THAL.
PHA. Oh, PHA. So get rid of that.
Um, yeah.
Do I get rid of the US also, or just the
No, no, no.
PHA?
Cephalus is in the name.
So what am I getting rid of?
Just the TH and the AL. You know what? I'm gonna double check.
Looks like the
Or
same
you know
thing
what?
came up. What am I? What's it? What should it look like?
It should have much more elongated, spiked armor on its body. It's not a very large species of ankylosaur, maybe pushing somewhere around 13 to 18 feet in length.
Everything looks the same. It all looks like this.
Yeah, this seems to be a much later sort of a reconstruction of an ankylosaur, at least when it comes to the Cretaceous period in general.
Hold on.
A Cainocephalus. Oh, okay. So maybe I could bring this up for. Wait a second. Did we do this way back?
No.
No. Okay, I could bring this animal up for another time. Let's see. Who else can we join in? I guess you could do Polacanthus. So Polanca. Did I say Pola? Okay. Yeah, Can Thus. Okay, so this is a species of nodosaur that existed over in the British Isles and more specifically England. Yeah, this guy's a bit off. Yeah, too much of an ankylosaur, sort of a skull. Oh, also, it existed in the British Isles around 130 million years ago. But also, yeah, two. Yeah, even this individual. Actually, this one's even more of an ankylosaur, sort of a physique, at least when it comes to its skull structure. That is very ankylosaur-like and not like a nodosaur. The beak would also be a third of the width. It had very narrow beaks. Even the skull in general, I'd say at least half the width, if not less. This is slightly better, but it's still off. Still a bit too much of like an ankylosaur sort of look. I mean, the Polacanthus from the 1999 series Walking with Dinosaurs isn't bad. The problem is it has a bit too much of like a hunch or a bit too much of like a sort of, I guess, arch on its overall back vertebrae. But I still think it's a very good looking Polacanthus. Armor's a bit off. No, I think it's still a bit off. I think it's supposed to represent England at around 130 to 135 million years ago. You have baryonyx in the background, the um, Spinosaur, some other species of carnivore in the background that coexisted with baryonyx, possibly occasionally competed with baryonyx for food, but it's not hitting me. I think it might be a species of megalosaur, just not Megalosaurus itself. It looks like he's been frozen in time. Still very far off. It doesn't look much different from one of the other pictures, like the second picture that was brought up. Also, the Polacanthus in the picture beforehand seemed a bit too ankylosaur-like. Nodosaurs in general were not as wide as the ankylosaurs. They also didn't score as much of a protective armor casing. It wasn't necessarily hard to, I mean, easy to break through. Most of the carnivores probably couldn't that they coexisted with. Um, where are oh, I think his eyes are over
I was gonna
here.
say, is that a mole?
This is a very wide nodosaur. Or maybe it's just that, his tummy is nearly touching the ground.
It's pregnant.
Yeah, also, very elongated osteoderms on the top of, the body. I mean, um, I think it's a decent clay model for a nodosaur. Let's see. Yeah, this guy's a bit of a too long of an upper beak sort of a look. Also, a bit too much like an ankylosaur. They had very small heads compared to their body size. The side armor, the side spikes, almost like the thagomizers of the nodosaur and ankylosaurs, but nodosaurs specifically. They're not bad for certain species. There is that specific area of armor that we have discovered of Polycanthus, which is somewhat bare. There's like small or almost flat osteoderms on this specific area, but they are or is pretty much bare of armor, which is interesting. Why also in evolution did certain species of nodosaurs and even members of Ankylosauridae evolve that type of an armor trait and just decide to um, stick a bunch of thagomizers along the sides, which would make it very formidable against different species of spinosaurs, raptors in different cases, or dromaeosaurs, as well as even earlier species of tyrannosaurs. Okay, well, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present,
Hmm.
yeah, that was the end. No, I just went back up
Oh,
to see what time period that this animal existed in. So during like the age of some of the last larger species of sauropod or titanosaur dinosaurs, as well as like different species of carcharodontosaurs in different parts of Africa, South America, Asia, they would continue to become quite large, just not to the same extent. Unfortunately, um, many of the carcharodontosaurs would simply go extinct. But anyway, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. We are streaming on both YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Happy International Thoroughfaring Day. And so this is including people that have ceratopsian stegosaur heritage. I'm kidding, but happy International, Thoroughfaring Day in general. And remember, nothing is better than all animals.